Welcome to the Ordinary People Do Extraordinary Things podcast. I'm your host, Michael Esguerra, and today we've got a very special guest. She is a life tour guide coach. She has a wealth of knowledge in health, wellness, and all things life. And she's a wife to a wonderful husband, mother to two wonderful young ladies, and just an amazing person. So her name is Dr. Jan Taplin, and we're so happy to hear from you and see you today. So welcome to the show, Dr. Jan.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be doing this. You and I connected on good old Clubhouse, and it's interesting the dynamic that changes when you're just hearing people with their voices versus seeing their facial expressions and all of that. It's fun.
Absolutely.
So thanks for having me.
Well, really happy to have you. Like I said, we've had some conversations on Clubhouse, but because it's just like pictures and voice, it's a little different than, actually seeing
Right.
face and whatnot. But I mean, I've seen your videos. So I kind of,
Yeah.
have a sense of who you are and what you look like. But it's great to be here and be live and interact with you here. So I'm excited for
Right.
today.
Right. And I know, I mean, when I've interviewed other people, a lot of times they want at least some of the questions ahead of time. And I know we talked about that. I love the idea of just throwing it out there and see what happens. No preparation other than getting on here and going forward.
I love it. And you know what? I'm totally open to that. I prefer that as well. Just an open, organic conversation like we're having right now. And I did
Yes.
offer, I was like, hey, do you want to do a warm-up call? Should I send some questions? And it's just like, just go with it. And I love that approach. So thank you, Dr. J.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm just going to slide these things out of the way. Okay.
Awesome. Well, to start, please tell us a little bit about, I guess, like, some of the stuff that you're doing today, and what was the journey? Like, what led you to all the great things that you're doing today?
Oh, wow. I've gone down many paths, let's put it that way. As a child, I used to hang out with my dad, who was a mechanic and owned his own shop. And I said to him, "Oh, I would love to be a mechanic because I do. I love fixing things, taking things apart." And he said, "Oh, you don't want to do that because all you do is deal with people's problems every day." Well, fast forward to college, I enjoyed art, so I went to college and signed up for art classes, but started comparing myself to everybody else and thought, I'm never going to make it as an artist. And I had a lot of people say to me, you should be a psychiatrist, a psychologist. And social work felt more right to me. So I actually changed my major from art to social work. And as a social worker, guess what? You deal with people's problems all the time. But that's really life. I mean, regardless of what most people are doing, there's an issue and then there's the help for the issue, regardless of, I think, most careers, right? So during that time in college, I used to have headaches when I was in high school and grade school. And after a car accident, I started getting migraine headaches. And I was at the point where I thought I would just rather be dead, honestly. If someone handed me a gun, I would have ended my life. The pain was so intense. And people that experience migraines understand that. Those that have never had that can't fathom pain being that bad, but it is. You can have pain anywhere else in your body and it's somewhat tolerable, even at a 10 out of 10. But when it's in your head, you can't function. So I picked up the phone book and I found a chiropractor. And he saved my life. He really did. And I thought, this is how I want to help people. So gave up social work, went into chiropractic, and I did that for about 8 years. But I'm the type of person that if I'm not 100% passionate about what I'm doing, if I lose that passion, I feel like I'm cheating myself and others. So when we moved from Minnesota to Arizona 3 years ago, I got back into caregiving, which is something I started doing in my 20s and kind of, off and on throughout every career that I've had. I've always kind of done some sort of caregiving. So I've been doing that for the last 3 years, and I really enjoy caregiving, but I also know that there's more that I have to offer. And so that's why I'm working on the life tour guide and offering the coaching and consulting through that.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's the short version.
I could only imagine because as you were sharing, I was like, wow, there's a lot to talk about in there.
Yeah.
The
Mm-hmm.
first thing that I wanted to touch on is, you're sharing how when you were younger, your passion was art, and then you kind of made that shift. And I think that's a similar story with some people where, they might have like dreams or ambitions, and sometimes it gets like crushed by other people's opinions. So I guess like
Yes.
what was it
Mm-hmm.
that I guess influenced you to really like shift your decision and be like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't pursue my dreams.
Mm-hmm. You mean as far as changing from art to social work?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, in art class, I would do my little drawing and would start looking around and seeing other people and thinking, wow, they're so much better than me. And so it was that self-judgment instead of just looking at what I had done and say, that's pretty good for me. Uh, I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it. You know, that whole, oh, starving artist thing that people talk about. So all of that kept going in my head. And so I just let that scare me. I let myself get scared.
That's so interesting because
Mm-hmm.
I know some people that have experienced that, myself included, and
Okay.
it's unfortunate, right? Because like it's
Mm-hmm.
probably something a passion of yours, and I'm wondering like if you had the skill set and the tool belt that you have today, do you think that you would continue art or pursuing that, or do you think you would go down a different path?
Yeah, I think I would have continued because the one of the lessons in life that I've learned just in life and out on my hikes is that when you make a decision, like for example, you're going across a water and you don't want to get your feet wet, so you're trying to pick the rocks. If you make a decision to step on that rock and then in the middle of it you change your mind, you often end up falling, slipping, losing your balance. So it's that idea that if I pick something, I'm going to go with it and just go, because if you hesitate for a second, something not good could happen. So I think that I would have definitely followed through on that whole path, see what it's like, and then maybe it wasn't right for me, but now I don't know if that path would have been a good one for me. I still dabble in art stuff, not as often as I would like to though. So home care keeps me pretty busy. The elderly population needs help, and not everybody is cut out to do that kind of work either. So,
Oh, for sure.
so, mm-hmm.
Well, you're definitely making an impact. I just kind of wanted
Thank
to
you.
touch on that because I know that sometimes people stop pursuing their dreams or doing what they're passionate about just because of um,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be like external factors or sometimes like comparing oneself to others, like thinking like, oh, my art's not as good as the next person, or my basketball playing abilities is not as good as
Mm-hmm.
the next person, as opposed to just really focusing on themselves and really just like building their own skill and their own unique skill set, right?
Right.
Yeah. So thank you
Mm-hmm.
for that. I really appreciate that because like I was,
Sure.
getting some, gleaning some knowledge and wisdom from that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Awesome.
oh, I
Yeah. One
Go
of
ahead.
the things that I was going to share popped into my head and then it popped back out again. Oh, and now it's back. There's that term multi-passionate, and
Mm,
I think myself and probably many people there, I just love so many things, and I've learned to consider myself like a pollinator.
mm,
You look at a bee or a butterfly and they flit from flower to flower to flower. They need to do that because if they just went to one flower and they sat on that flower for 8 hours a day and then went back to the nest, they're not going to be able to pollinate nearly as much as if they go from one flower to the next. And I think there's that self-judgment. What's wrong with me that I can't keep one job for 10 years like everybody else? I mean, I've had over 30 jobs in my career of work, and I used to feel bad about that. And now I look at myself and say, who else would have continued to say, oh, that didn't work, next, that didn't work, next, you know? But for years, I beat myself up, you know, why can't I just stay at this one job even though I hate it like other people do? You know, learn to love it. You know, that's not me. If I don't love it, I've got to move on. If I can't make changes and improvements that I feel need to be made. So not everybody's like that. And again, stop judging ourselves for being who we are, and not only love ourselves. So there's a lot of talk about loving ourselves, but what about just liking yourself? Let's start there. You know, that can be a challenge. So
That's such a
yeah,
good
thanks.
point. We could start
Mm.
there, definitely just liking ourselves. And thank you so much for the likes there. I want to acknowledge what my friend Richard had said here, just around that compassion.
Richard, hi.
Compassion, the thief of creativity, and I
Mm.
couldn't agree more. And then what you said there, Dr. Jan, around that sorry, what was it? Multi-passion.
Yeah, multi-passionate. Hmm.
Multi-passionate, yes, thank you. And just also recognizing that everyone is different, because and what works for one may or may not work for another person. So there might be some bees that are really good at focusing on that one flower, and just being at that one flower. Other people might be want to go and pollinate 10, 20, 50 flowers, right? But
Right.
everyone's different. Like, I think of, like, well, what kind of bee am I? And I think I like to really be laser focused, but it has to be like the flower that I want to be laser focused on. If it's not
There
that
you go.
flower, right, then I won't focus on it. And if I might be the multi-passionate flower, but once I found like the flower, then I'm gonna put all of my focus and energy and passion into that flower.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, but
It's
everyone is different.
important.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's important to follow those passions. You know, when you've talked to people who they've allowed someone else to squash their dreams, that it's just hard for them to find that joy and happiness. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
for
my husband is almost the complete opposite of me.
Oh, really?
He he is in, yeah, go figure. He is able to be in situations, and he'll make the best of it no matter what. I mean, he'll come home just beat up and frazzled, and he gets that turned around and he's ready for the next day to go to work. He's not like me where this isn't working, next. He'll stick with something just, which is good for me because we've had challenges in our marriage where I've even said done, and he's like, nope, we're going to make this work. We're going to make this work. And I'm glad that he has, because we are definitely a good for one another because of that balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely is good to balance that out. Sorry, I'm just
Mhm.
seeing the comments as well, and
Yeah, they're awesome. We can definitely read those, and um,
yeah.
we are such a robust, magnificent beings. We are capable of so much. Follow all of the breadcrumbs of passion. Yeah.
We do a quick
Mhm.
change.
But the other thing too that
Sorry.
oh, no, that's okay. The one thing that we had talked about too is I'm working on that book, Scatterbrain to Success.
Yes.
And the thing is, I mean, unless I probably heavily medicate myself, which I don't want to do because then I'm not who I am. I just embrace the scatterbrainness, and I mean, I would be embarrassed a little to show you, the behind the scenes, what all of that looks like behind the camera, because it's a mess. I mean, but that's what we do. We put forward the better version of ourselves. Um, that's just kind of how it is. And but if anybody wants to see the behind the scenes, I'm not afraid to share that too. But I do want to put my best foot forward. But in
Oh.
that whole idea of being scatterbrained, my daughter got me this cup. If found in the microwave, please return to mom. Because I would put my coffee in to warm it up, and then I'd go do something, and then I'd forget it, and I'd warm it back up again, or I'd forget I put it in there,
That's
you
so
know. And
interesting.
that's, yeah. So you just, I get distracted so easily, but I also notice so many things. Um, I can pass my husband coming home from work, and I'm going somewhere, and I'm waving at him. He doesn't even notice that it's me. you know so it's different, but just learning to accept one another exactly how we are, not wanting to change other people, and allowing ourselves to be ourselves. Obviously, if there's something we need to change because it's causing us discomfort or unease in our life, yeah, okay, make that change. But sometimes we just try and try and try and try to make changes that just aren't happening. And at some point you say, this is just me. I'm just going to be me.
Absolutely. And there's that
Hmm.
saying that you can be both a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. And
I
that
like
really
that.
hits my heart because like you are perfect the way that you are, right? Like you don't
Yes.
necessarily need to change if you don't want to. Like there is something to be said about accepting oneself.
Right.
It said loving oneself, but even just liking oneself if that's the next step, right? Um,
Hmm.
but also like if there is something that you want to change, like you're more than welcome to change that as well. And there's
Hmm.
skills, tools, books, videos, people that can support with that change, right?
Hmm. Yeah. The trick is to make sure that you're making the change for yourself and not just for others around you. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm working with the elderly population, and just yesterday, I mean, this lady is in her 90s, and she is still doing things that her children expect her to do instead of just saying, I don't want to do that. And I think, wow, all these years on the planet, and you're still bowing down to what others want of you. And I mean, it just broke my heart to see that. And then it makes me realize, okay, pay attention. Am I compromising my wants and needs for others? For the most part, I don't do that much anymore. And I'm a happier person because of it. Hmm.
For
And I
sure.
mean, there are times where you may need to put your own needs aside for whatever. I mean, so I'm not saying that every single time you just do what you want all the time, every time. So there's a balance, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm.
But I can appreciate what you're saying because for the most part, majority of my life, I lived into, I guess, what's the word? Not like serving or living into, but
People pleasing?
yes, thank you. That's exactly what
Okay.
it is. Yeah, I really lived into
Yeah.
people pleasing, just doing what I felt other people expected out of me.
Hmm.
And it really like held me back from doing a lot of things. Like one of the biggest things
Yeah.
that really held me back from doing things was the fear of other people's opinions. Whether it be like, oh, these people have this certain expectation of me to do certain things, or like if I try to pursue my goals, what are people going to think of me either just by pursuing my goals, or what are they going to think if I pursued my goals and I experienced failure? Like those things
Right.
really just weighed so heavily on my head. And then there just came a tipping point where it's just like, I can't think like this anymore. I can't operate like this anymore because not just
Yeah.
because like it was holding me back from achieving my goals, but it's just too heavy on like my mind and my heart and my soul. Like
Hmm.
I just it was just too difficult to live.
Right. Well, and there are cultural differences too. Would you agree that um, doing what's expected of you in certain cultures is just more heavy than in other cultures?
Yeah, Yeah, or and just like upbringing, family upbringing as well. Like some
Hmm.
households, you know, like that's kind of like what is taught, right? Like you know, do what I say kind of thing. There's no, or what is it, my way or the highway kind of thing. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
not really having that freedom to kind of like be and do what you want. So I really appreciate
Hmm.
what you're saying about like just, you know, liking oneself, accepting oneself, and really just doing what's in your heart and what you're
Hmm.
passionate about. I'm such a big advocate for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I raised my daughters that I said, for example, Christmas or other holidays that are big holidays for people, you end up having to choose. Do I go to this do I go to the in-laws or do I go to my parents' house? And there was always that, who do you please? And, maybe pleasing yourself was going to neither, but that's kind of one of those things where you kind of have to, well, you don't have to. Many of us choose to please other people in those situations. And I raise my girls, if I ask you to come out for Christmas and you don't want to come out for Christmas, just tell me you don't. I mean, I even as they were growing up and going to school, I told them, because I was a bad little girl, I would pretend that I was sick when I didn't want to go to school. And I just said, you know what, if you wake up in the morning, some morning, and you just don't feel like going to school that day, just tell me I don't feel like going to school. Don't lie to me. Don't try to get away with something. Just say it. And we just kind of have this relationship where we're just honest with each other, straightforward. It's so nice. It is so nice. And I had one time I was on the phone with my daughter and she was in college and she had all of her college friends around, and I forget what she said to me, but it was right before we hung up, and she called me back later and she was laughing. She's like, "Oh my God, Mom, you're never going to believe this. All my friends, when I hung up the phone, they were like, did you just say that to your mom?" And she's like, "Yeah." Because it was kind of like, are we done talking now? Because I got stuff to do. Just like that point blank, let's move on. And it was just kind of like, okay, wow, this is cool. But on the flip side of that, she had her friend that was going to try wedding dresses on. And she said, "You have to come with me because you're the only person that's going to tell me the truth." You know? So that's kind of how, but not everybody can handle the truth. Sometimes people want to be told what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So most of my friends know, if you're going to be my friend, you're just going to hear what I think is right. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, pretend, make it all fuzzy and warm. It's just going to be that. And I tend to coach that way too. So not everyone can deal with my style of coaching, because
Which is straightforward to the point, would you say?
straightforward to the point, ask those tough questions. Let's not take 5 years to get to where we could in 2 months
Yeah,
or even a day or a moment, really. I mean, so much of the shift doesn't have to happen outside of us. It just has to happen up here.
absolutely.
Success, for example. Oh, you got to live in a multi-million-dollar home and drive a Mercedes or whatever kind of car. No, you don't. You can live in, you could live in squalor and still be happy if your mindset is right.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. It's so,
yeah.
oh, that's so funny. The change definitely has to happen in here. Because there's two different directions that I want to go in, but you know what? I'm going to touch on the first one before it fades away. But what you
Sure.
said there around the holidays,
Yeah.
and how it's like, you know, where do we go? Because I've got a fairly big family. You know, usually during the holiday season, there's like three dinners to go to, and they usually happen all on the same day. And in the
Right?
past, right, in the past, it was like, okay, you know, I'm gonna find a way to make it to all three of these dinners. But before I used to do it because it was like, okay, you know, this group expects me to be here, this group expects me to be here, this group expects me to be here, and that was kind of the mentality. It's like I had to be there and show up for all of those people. Now when I make those decisions, though, it's different. It's like, you know, I'll still probably go to all three parties, but I'll go to all
Uh-huh.
three parties because I genuinely want to be there for myself, because I want to spend time with each and every one of those people. So I'll make time that works with my schedule, obviously, but my, I guess my reason for
Hmm.
being there is different, if that makes sense. And
Which
even though
makes
it's
it
the same,
feel different.
Well, exactly. Like the outcome
Yeah.
is still the same, but like
Mm-hmm.
the reason and the feeling behind it is completely different.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because now you're looking forward to going instead of begrudgingly going.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
was like,
And the
oh,
outcome's the same. I love it.
yeah, exactly. Instead of feeling that angst of like, oh man, I gotta rush because I gotta be here, then I gotta be there, and this and that. But
Right. And you
yeah,
don't enjoy any of it then. Hmm.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Good
that's
work.
one that I wanted to touch on. The other one was the concept of like changing in here first. It's funny because
Yeah.
I was talking to someone about like success, for example, and they envision success to be A, B, and C in about like 5 years. And I kind of
Hmm.
walked them through a timeline. It's like, okay, well, hey, this is where you envision yourself to be success. This is where to be successful, and this is where you are today. Like, and then you've got that time gap between like, where you are today and where you envision yourself to be in the future. At what point
Hmm.
in that timeline have you reached success? At what point in the timeline are you successful? And I don't know. I guess the person just couldn't really process the question that I was asking
Oh, okay.
him. Yeah,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
um, but really, like, I mean, the success has to happen like in here before it can
Right.
happen anywhere else, right? Like, when you
Hmm.
look at that timeline, success has to happen right now in this present moment if we
Hmm.
want to be successful 2, 3, 5 years from now, right?
Right. Hmm.
But it all
And again,
happens in here
looking,
first. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. No, that's okay. Um, I bring a lot of my thought back to hiking. And when you're out, there's some hikes that you go on. Hi, Marva, welcome. Um, you see the mountain top that you want to get to. And if you keep your eye focused on the mountaintop and you're not paying attention, there's rattlesnakes, there's Gila monsters, there's a rock you can trip on. So you need to bring your focus back on where's the next step in my foot. And if you only enjoy it once you reach the peak of that mountain, I mean, to me, that's not living, that's not enjoyment. But if every step of the way you're enjoying that moment, that's success,
Wow.
right? Every moment. And my friend Rhonda says she wants to live her life out of inspiration rather than obligation. And
Wow.
that goes back to what we were talking about with the holidays. We feel obligated to go, but when you changed it to I feel inspired to go, it you still went, but the whole feeling around it changed. Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
enjoying the
absolutely.
moment.
That's so awesome. I love what your friend said there, and I love your analogy relating it to hiking because I see your hikes on your Instagram,
Yeah, I love
and it's so
hiking.
beautiful.
Hmm.
It's so beautiful. But that is the perfect analogy. If you're enjoying, if you're planning to just enjoy that when you reach the peak, when you reach the peak, like I don't know, like not that that's not success, but the
Right.
but the journey has to be enjoyable, like because you may or
Hmm.
may not even make it to the top if you're not enjoying every step that you're taking, right? Because
Right.
they're all
And what
like,
if yeah, what if
oh,
you
please
don't
go ahead.
make it to the top? What if you only make it three-quarters of the way? Now you're just, oh, that was awful. I mean, it's
Exactly.
just that learning to enjoy every moment. And just recently, well, actually, this past weekend, my husband and I went to Mesa, Arizona, because I had heard that there were wild horses, and it was my mission to see these wild horses. And the we had driven back and forth where this gal had said, "Oh yeah, they've been hanging out over here," and we saw these two horses, and one of them looked like it was almost starving to death, and it just had no pep whatsoever. And the other one just kind of was hanging there, and I got upset, and I was like, "This is it. I came here to see these horses, and all I get to see are these two lame horses." And I was pretty upset, and I just said, "You know what? Let's go back to the hotel." But there was something inside of me that was like, I want to keep trying. I don't want to give up. And so we drive by this one area, and I said, well, stop here and let's look. So we got out of the car, but that path didn't really lead anywhere. So we're driving a little bit farther, and I'm still thinking we're just going back to the hotel. I'm giving up. But then I said, this place looks open. So he pulls over. And normally he would say, are you sure? Is this the place? And then we drive past. So it was just this cool incident where he pulled over, and we start wandering along this path and come up over this ridge, and I see the river, and then I see these wild horses, you know. So I had that struggle of, I'm just going to give up. It's not, and luckily, I don't know. I don't know what the lesson is, because I could have gone home having only saw 2 horses and figured out a way to be okay with that, right? I mean, because if we're talking about feeling successful no matter what the outcome, but the heavens aligned or whatever, and I got to see, and it was so magnificent that, yeah. So
But the heavens aligned. I truly believe, at the end of the day, whatever you believe to be true is true for you. But
yeah,
I believe that the heavens aligned because you managed to persevere what you thought was, like a failure, where you saw, oh, you only got to see the horses, but you persevered through, you continued with the journey, and then, the universe aligned and you got to see these beautiful wild horses. But had you gone home, and not gone further in the journey, you wouldn't have seen it.
right. Thank you for that, because I hadn't kind of processed that whole thing yet.
But you
Yeah.
know what? Thank you for that, because I hope that you help, not just myself, but a whole bunch of other people, realize, like, with that analogy, because that analogy is exactly what happens when we pursue our goals, when we look to manifest, the things that we desire. When we stop, when we hit that, point of quote unquote failure, or when things aren't looking like, wait a second, this doesn't look like what I envisioned success to be, or this isn't what I envisioned, what I was looking to
Right.
manifest. And if we just stop there because we think that we didn't get what we wanted, then if we stop, we're definitely not going to get what we wanted. But if you continue that journey and, like, learn from the mistakes, learn from the failures, and persevere through, the universe will align and show you all the beautiful wild horses that you wanted to see.
Nice. Very good. Spoken like an awesome coach, right? That's
Well, thank
good.
you. I like to just say
Oh,
that I'm a human being. Like, am I a coach? Sure.
uh-huh.
But I'm a human being who just loves to learn. And that's why I
Right.
have these conversations, right? This is ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And not that you're ordinary. It's just,
Yeah.
like, we're all human beings and we're all
hmm
capable of extraordinary things. And that's why I love
Right.
these conversations, because, hearing your stories is just, helping me, and I hope helping others realize that,
Right.
all of these lessons that were, and this is not planned. Like, I didn't send you one question at all.
I know. That's why I love it. I love doing it like this, because then we know that it's totally the way it was meant to happen.
Absolutely.
And it feels more organic and just more genuine, I think, when
Absolutely.
nothing is, yeah.
Absolutely. Those organic conversations, I absolutely love it. That's kind of like, I mean, you've joined some of the clubhouse rooms that I host, which, by
Right.
the way, I got to do a quick time check, because I'm hosting one
Yeah.
in about 24 minutes, but we still
Yeah.
have a little bit of time. But
hmm
that's what we try to do. Like, Song and I, we try to facilitate these conversations where they're open and organic and naturally happen. It's a little bit more
Right.
challenging now with, like, because we're starting to get bigger stages and bigger rooms and whatnot.
hmm
So it's a little bit more
That's
challenging,
awesome.
but we try to, keep that, because that's where the beauty happens. When people could just organically interact like this, that's where the beauty happens.
Right. hmm Yeah. Well, and as things grow, a tree can only get so tall before it drops seeds, and then those seeds need to grow. And I think sometimes on Clubhouse, what I've seen happen is they want to just always keep that growth within that circle instead of letting seeds fall and then new growth happen, which I don't see you and Song doing. I mean, yeah, applauding people for, take your little seed pod and then grow from what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, no, it's interesting, and also like with that support, like people like Rakesh, and I see Robbie is here as well. You know, have been really
Uh-huh.
supportive, and kind of to your point, you know, about letting the seeds fall and allowing for more growth. You know, we're trying to do that by supporting other people, supporting other rooms, and really like
Mm-hmm.
promoting others as well. Like if you
Yes.
if you come
And
into
you
one
do,
of our, what's
yeah,
that?
you do such a great job of that. You're everybody's cheerleader, and I really appreciate that in you.
Thank you so much. Well, it's just it's genuine. I know that, like success doesn't happen on your own. And I'm not saying that I'm successful or anything like that. But like, we talk about growth and whatnot, but like personal
Mm-hmm.
growth, it's influenced by a bunch of other external influences, plus the work that
Mm-hmm.
you do on the inside. So,
Right.
it's just important to celebrate not only yourself, but others as well. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
saying that rising tides raises all boats. And I'm
Oh,
a big
that's good.
believer of that. Yeah, I'm a big
Mm-hmm.
believer in that. And like, I believe in abundance. So I believe that we can all thrive. We can all be successful. And
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see that for everyone, really.
Right. Yeah. That me too. I mean, and I think that's why I felt connected to you. And we've this yeah, this conversation, I mean, I've not been paying attention, and my apologies. There's people that have been putting stuff up here, and maybe we need to take some time and just kind of recognize some of the things that people have been sharing. Is that okay with you?
Oh, absolutely. This is
Yeah.
this is your
I'm like,
show.
oh my gosh, all these people are putting notes. I see that. Now, Blue Marnie, is that
That's Richard.
that's Richard. Okay. Hey, Richard. Marva's on here. Um,
I see my
let's
friend
see.
Naz is here. Robbie is
Okay.
here.
Yeah, some of the names I'm not familiar with. Nasmeen. Okay, I remember you interviewed her. Tammy. Hey, Tammy. And then my friend, the Crafty Monarch. Oh, good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of acknowledge by doing a little like thank you as people like pop in and drop notes because I also want to keep our conversation natural and organic. But
Sure. Okay.
I've got one
Okay.
eye
Yeah,
on
I
you and one
noticed
eye on
you
the
doing
chat.
that.
So
And oh, this is good. Very
uh,
good.
I wanted to ask about like maybe it'll probably be about one or two more questions and then we'll start to wind down. But
Sounds
um,
good.
because you started to get into or you did your doctorate of chiropractic and absolutely interesting because actually I it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I met a chiropractor, and then after speaking with them, actually, there were a couple that I met that year. I was just blown away by
Mm.
the concepts that are learned and everything like that, like mindset. So curious, like what is like one of your main takeaway that you learned from that whole experience of getting that doctorate of chiropractic?
Wow. Well, I think, oh gosh, there's so much. First of all, I was introduced to chiropractic as a young kid because my parents were going to chiropractors, but they went because something hurt, and then when it stopped hurting, they quit going to the chiropractor. What I learned is that just like diabetes is not painful, sometimes cancer is not painful until it hits a certain point. So, using pain as an indicator that there's something wrong in our bodies is kind of not a good idea. Our we're taking in so much information all the time just for survival that pain is only about 10% of what we're taking in and processing. So if you have, you know, if you hurt yourself and you constantly focus on that and only that, you're going to miss a lot of stuff around you. So that's why it's only 10% because we're going to have certain pains and aches and things. And like if you sprain your ankle and you're running from somebody that's chasing you to kill you, you can't be focused on your ankle and stop and be like, oh gosh, I sprained my ankle. No, you got to keep running. So there's that mechanism that, the adrenaline and everything. We're going to not pay attention to that pain. So I think that's the biggest thing is there's a lot of focus on pain and then just covering up pain, whether it's a pain, pain medication or whatever. Um, so if we can get people to understand, number one, that pain is not the indicator of always that whether there's something that needs help inside your body, and to not ignore, because sometimes people ignore the pain until it is so big that it's almost unmanageable. So there's that. And also too, there's so many varieties of chiropractic. You've got the chiropractors that believe that they save lives. Like they will tell you, I will save your life. And I felt like the chiropractor that helped me with the migraines saved my life. And then there are others that they will just focus on pain and then adjust you. And when your pain is gone, then they're done. And then all of those in the middle. So when people say, oh, I've been to a chiropractor, there are over 100 different techniques. So you could go to 100 different chiropractors and get a different experience every time. So I would say if a person ever just thinks that they may need other help, start interviewing chiropractors and don't wait until you've tried everything else and now you're trying the chiropractor because you don't know what else to do. So that was a lot, but there's chiropractic is very misunderstood by most people.
Totally. And like myself included, like I didn't really know much about, chiropractors. Prior to meeting some, I just heard stories from other people, and some were good, some were not so good.
Some were bad. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I went in and I couldn't walk to my car when I left, And sometimes there's something called a healing crisis where I used to explain it as it's like a car accident in reverse. If your body's been this way for 20 years and I come in and I make some adjustments, you might feel way worse. But sometimes that's that process that needs to take place for the healing to start. But if a chiropractor doesn't mention that, yeah, you're going to get people that go, never going back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So awesome. Well, really appreciate you. We got one more question, and then we'll close this out here. But
sure.
Something that I like to ask everyone is if you had access to a billboard and you can post it anywhere in the world, what would you put on it, and where would you put it?
If I had access to a billboard, and I would put on that billboard to be appreciative of absolutely everything, the good and the bad, if there is such a thing, and every moment, no matter what, because even the bad stuff has something good in it if we look for it.
Absolutely. We might
I don't know how big the billboard gets to be because it's a lot of words on a billboard. That's an awesome question. Very, very awesome.
Well, thank you. I can't take full credit for it. I did borrow it from Tim Ferriss. He is a great podcast host and just a brilliant mind. And so I am borrowing it from him, but
It works. Keep spreading the good stuff, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate your message because it's the power of gratitude, right? Being grateful. There's so much power in being grateful. And, like you said there around, the even the bad things, because the bad things, even though you might not see it in that exact moment, we can always look back in our past and, when we look at that, see that, bad experience, there's so many lessons that we learned through that experience that helped us become the people that we are today. And we love ourselves, right? And we like ourselves, right?
Right. And then learning to like and love the person that was there to create that experience for you.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
that's a huge step. When people can make that step, they leap over mountains. When when they come to love the person that hurt them, because in that hurt, the growth came.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Jan, you are doing extraordinary things, and you are
Oh,
helping
so
people.
are you.
You
So
are
are
helping
you.
people do extraordinary things. So thank you so much, Dr. Jan. Really appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you. You're a very genuine, caring person, and I look forward to getting to know you more and hearing about your daughter and your life. So we're going to do this, only I'm going to be asking you questions, right?
Right. And I'm so looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to it. So,
Yeah,
uh,
we'll have to set a time for sure.
absolutely, absolutely. So, make sure you're following Dr. Jan. I'll put it in the comments and on the YouTube description when I upload it on there. Also follow her on YouTube as well. What's your YouTube channel?
Oh, no.
Dr. Jan. I saw it last night. Dr. Jan Taplin, I believe it is.
Is it? Okay, because
Yeah.
I have different names on different platforms, so I don't remember.
That's totally cool. So, is there anything that you're doing right now that you want to tell people about and let people know?
Well, as we mentioned, I'm working on the book Scatterbrain to Success, and I keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, and I got to just set a be done deadline, because I mean, even when I've done talks in the public, I'll have my PowerPoint ready and I'll be changing it the hour before I go, because there's always something else that comes. So I just have to set a deadline and put that out. I'm also working on some, what would you call it? Not a training, but like a course for people.
Cool.
So that'll be coming. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, stay tapped in with Dr. Jan so that you can, get her book, and check out her course. And what was I going to say as well? The book. What a wonderful ending to the book when you can say, you went from Scatterbrain to published author.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to stop being scatterbrained, but it's that whole idea of accepting yourself. Do what you can, but stop. I can clean this table off and 2 hours later it's going to look the same. So am I going to spend hour after hour changing it, or am I going to just be, okay, that needs to stay that way because that's as good as it's going to be and I can live with it. Maybe my friends think, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I can live with it like that. Good enough. It's
Absolutely.
that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. So awesome. And one message that I really took away from today as well, just using that whole table example is like whether you choose to clean it or don't choose to clean it, like yourself and try to love yourself throughout that whole process. So,
Yep. Stop beating ourselves up. We can definitely be our worst critic. Mm-hmm.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Dr. Jan. Really appreciate
Thank
you and all the
you. This has been
knowledge
a
and wisdom.
perfect way to start a Friday morning.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Make sure you're following Dr. Jan on Instagram. Her handle is Dr. Jan Marie
I think
Taplin.
Jan Marie Taplin.
Jan
Yes,
Marie,
I
yeah,
didn't have the doctor in that one.
I gotcha. Jan Marie Taplin. Follow her on Instagram, Dr. Jan Taplin, or on YouTube, sorry, Dr. Jan Taplin. And then if you aren't already following me, follow me as well at MB
Yes,
Learning One here on Instagram
definitely.
and MB Learning on YouTube. We've got the links in my bio, and so you can check it out, all of it out there. And again, I really appreciate you, Dr. Jan, and thank you to everyone who tuned in today. And I wish you all nothing but peace, love, and joy as we go throughout our day. So take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. It was great.
You're
Appreciate it.
you're most welcome.
All right.
Absolutely great as well. So, all right, take care, and we'll see you on the Instagram and Clubhouse streets.
You got it.
All
Bye
right,
now.
bye.